Can I get Matt's read on Bitcoin? Technical read.
Yeah, let's do it. That's next.
Are you wondering from an intraday?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Intraday analysis. First of all, you're really choppy, and it definitely needs to settle down on the daily mark, right? But if you're thinking about a seller, and just very quickly on the daily chart before I give you the intraday, don't you got to be a slightly encouraged as a Bitcoin bull? And you definitely are a Bitcoin bull. It's a major part of your portfolio at this point.
Yep.
Don't you got to be a little encouraged with the snapback action on the wicks here? Like 3 days in a
there's
row.
definitely buyers coming in, right?
Well, yeah, and 3 days in a row, you've had some degree of negative news on Bitcoin, including one day where it was like, oh my God, India is going to end Bitcoin. It's like, come on, dudes, let's get it together. So you've had some negative news in the crypto space over the last 3 days. You had an overextended technical read, and you had every reason in the world to sell off here. And so before I break down the intraday technicals, I do think that's a positive for Bitcoin, even though I do think that the daily chart needs to settle down a little bit. Let's break that down on that 30-minute chart here and look at some key resistance levels we need to concern ourselves with. First and foremost, the snapback you're seeing, here's that snapback. Look at that fire off action there, Mark. Look at that fire off action. That's really healthy price action. And that just also coincided with the European Open as well. And the European Cash Open does play a role in crypto analysis the same way it does in Forex trading. You look at that fireback action here. That's on the Indian news. Stuck the landing, fireback action. This is on the lows of on Saturday, fireback action. So every time it's tested lower, including the massive Indian news headline that Bitcoin had to navigate from the last 24 hours, it's maintained. And so I do think that is positive. And one of the reasons why you're seeing that maintain is just the defensive nature. And this, I think this is important, guys, the defensive nature that it plays in this environment. You guys, we talked about it in the halftime report. I know Mark, Tim, and myself talked about it a lot outside the halftime report, but how impressive was it to look at Bitcoin in an environment where tech was getting just murdered? Like Among Us, Emily with the stab in O2. Like it was extremely impressive to see Bitcoin hold the line in an environment where it's been tied to the NASDAQ, and the NASDAQ kissed the line and then literally just died.
Mm-hmm.
And so I do think it's very impressive, the defensive nature that Bitcoin played in that psychological environment. It held the line technically. And I think that's important, to hold the line technically in an environment where you have every reason to drop. That's impressive. That might be playing a role over the course of the last couple of days in this snapback and the defensive nature in the face of some pretty damning news. I mean, I personally think what India is doing is a nothing burger. I think it's a marketing campaign for Bitcoin, quite frankly, but that's me. What do you think the rest of the people in the world see when they see India, wanting to outlaw Bitcoin?
Well, it's going to cause a little bit of short-term fear for people who don't have context in history.
Yeah, like context in history is like more than 3 months.
Yeah.
And so I think it's very, very impressive that Bitcoin has played defense against the tech sell-off. I think it's impressive that it's played defense in the face of major geopolitical news coming out of India. And so I do think it's a positive. Now, when you look at this from a technical perspective on the intraday, this stuff needs to be cleaned up. There's no doubt about that. Like I said, on the daily chart, that needs some time, needs to settle down. Well, you see that on the intraday chart. This needs to settle down. It's very difficult to get a very good read. But in the short term, you have a couple things to keep an eye on. Number one is to see how Bitcoin's going to navigate 55K. And I'm just talking intraday, right? I'm nothing major here, just intraday type time frames. 55K, if you look at it here, old resistance, look at that tick right there, Mark. Look at that tick. Look at that tick. Look at that zone. Look at that zone. 55K is going to play a role here. So I do think you're positive above 55K, but your real line in the sand is 54. So those are your two support levels. You're really navigating on the downside as a bull. You're saying, okay, if 55 doesn't hold, fine. I got a backstop at 54. 54 is the line in the sand. It breaks. We go down to wherever we're going to find support. Maybe that's 50K. Maybe that's lower than 50K. But that's what you're looking at from a support level. Resistance levels, you got chop, 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 chop. You got chop, 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 chop. Bitcoin can destroy chop. There's no doubt about that. But you got a resistance level of 56.5. You got a resistance level of 57.2. You got a resistance level of 58.2. And so before any new triggering action happens, you need to clear this area here. That's my read. You need to clear this area here because you got too much action where it hits something, comes right back down. Hits something, comes right back down. That's mixed data there. You give it a little bit more time, that data smooths out, cleans up this area of the chart. All of a sudden, now we're looking 2 days into the future over here. Now we got 2 more days of intraday data. And this is what happens, guys. All this nonsense, 2 more days, we're not looking at anymore. We're looking at this stuff. And then we're looking at triggers. And so I do think it needs a couple days to settle down. But overall, Mark, I've been very impressed by the defensive nature that Bitcoin has played in the face of 2 events that historically send Bitcoin down and violate support. And yet no important level of support was violated in any capacity, in any of this volatility, guys. That truly is astonishing.
Yeah.
Not a daily support level that is non-momentum based was violated.